Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at USAGlobalTV.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio. We proudly present world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and as a little bit of a surprise today, I am hosting The Wise Ones. We had a guest who is unable to make it, so I am going to interview the host and star of our show. His name is Mr. red.olaughlin, and he resides in Texas in the good old US of A. He is a veteran. He is highly educated, highly decorated. He's a distinguished Toastmaster. He's a longevity expert. He's an author. He's a book coach, and he is a very good friend of mine. Let's welcome red.olaughlin to The Wise Ones. Hello, welcome.
Howdy. Thank you so very much. You always make me blush when you introduce me, so it's still going on today.
Well, I'm really excited that I'm able to interview you today and share more of your story because you are truly accomplished. And one thing I really love about you, Red, and I've shared this with you many times, is you always show up. It doesn't matter what's going on. You show up at the highest level all of the time. And not everyone does that. So I just want to thank you for your loyalty and for just being a true professional in every capacity. Tell our audience a little bit about your background as a distinguished Toastmaster.
I think it was probably 2003, something like that. I moved from one particular part of the company I was in to another location, different job within the same company. And in that building, they had Toastmasters. And it's one of those things that I had thought about for a long time. I've been speaking around the world, spoke at different events in Europe where they have the headphones and they translate your into French and German and whatever else that the audience has. I've spoken a lot. I've taught classes at night at college level, a lot of presentations given in the military and civilian life, and academia. So I spoke a lot. I said, well, I really probably need to improve myself. I know how to take a really good subject that I can cover in 5 minutes and manage to make 15 minutes out of it. But that's not what I wanted. What I wanted was take a 15-minute topic, organize it well, present it extremely well within 5 minutes. And that's one of the things that Toastmasters teaches you how to do. In the different kinds of speaking venues that you have to take and give a speech most of the time between 5 and 7 minutes. There are evaluations you have to do, and I found that evaluating somebody else's speech is probably the thing that helped me more than anything else, because you're constantly looking at what are they doing right, so you can give them some feedback to build them up. What one or two little things could they improve upon? And that way, when you're paying attention to the little nuances of their speech. How did they open their speech? What was the timbre of their voice, their eye contact, lots of things. And when we went to the virtual COVID reality, it's not quite the same thing as we're doing here on video that you do in person. In person, I can see audience body language. I can concentrate on a particular person. Let's say Dr. Jacqueline, you're sitting in the second row. I can look at you and I can tell you give a little head nod that you understand something because I'm talking straight at you. And when I get that little head nod or that body language that, okay, I understand, I can move to someone else. So I'm making it very personal to the people I'm talking to. Then you also have the impromptu speaking where they give you a topic. I think one of the funniest ones they ever gave me, a really good friend of mine said, Red, tell us about your experiences with Paris Hilton. And so I got up to the front of the stage and I said, I don't think I've ever actually stayed in the Hilton in Paris. I've stayed at the Hilton in a couple other cities. So I took the basic premise of Paris Hilton as a celebrity and went a different direction. But there are things that you can do as you're put on the spot for something, and it's a 2 to 3 minute, no, it's a 1 to 2 minute. You're being able just to cover something in a very short period of time. How can you take a topic, make sense out of it, organize it as you're walking up to the front of the room, and being able to add value or at least deliver a product to an audience? So that was what I wanted, and it turned out about halfway through the program there, I was neck and neck with another good friend of mine. And the guy and I, we were literally, I was maybe a week ahead of him, he was a week ahead of me, and it turned out that we both got our distinguished Toastmaster the same week. He got his on a Tuesday, I got mine on a Thursday. And so it just worked out that way, that we had a personal competition to push each other through the entire. And that I thought was probably one of the best things there. Now, they push a lot of leadership with being able to do more than just speaking, but from a professional speaking perspective, it allowed me to take and organize in my brain and memorize it, the flow that I want to talk about.
Red, thank you so much for sharing that about Distinguished Toastmasters. We have a number of other team members who have also gone through the process. How would you say that having that accomplishment had prepared you for the work you do as a public speaker, as a book coach, as an author? Because you learned that discipline and structure, the same discipline and structure that you used, I believe, in the military. How did those tools and traits help you as a professional?
Well, the speaking is something that I think any leader has to have as a tool on his or her belt, because that is something you communicate all the time. You know, I can relate a very funny texting where she got lost somewhere and she's texting and I say, call me. I want to know what's going on. I don't want to read a text or have to respond back. So I think a lot of generational things now, they're going to a different method than just talking. I tell people, call me on the phone, let's talk. But talking, to answer your question more directly, is that you're communicating. If you are ambiguous as to what you expect someone to do, then the product you get back is not going to be exactly what you expected. You have to be able to identify that expectation clearly. Now, in the military, you have missions, boom, boom, boom. You cover every single item on there. The items are known in advance. You have questions, boom. In a academic world, you're presenting information, but sometimes you don't present it clearly enough for somebody to understand, and you get lots of questions. People raise their hands, or you go back and rehash things. If I have a client, it helps me to understand how and why they're writing their book. You know, do they have a family issue that they wanted to highlight, and with regard to that, that's the information they want to get out? You know, are they professional and they need a book to cover the back of the room sales because they don't have a book? Do they just want to capture a memoir? Are they really passionate about writing and they want to be able to develop more? So the more I can ask intelligent questions of an individual, and one of the first questions I always ask, who's your audience? And I've had several people, more than a couple. I don't know. My audience is everyone. Well, no, your audience is not everyone, because you can say, I drive by this overpass down here and there's always 2 or 3 people there with shopping carts and bed camping gear, and they're homeless. They're not part of your reading audience. They're not part of the people you're selling to. So you have to really narrow down. The narrower you can get that audience, the better that person can write to. So from a coach perspective, you want to be able to are you reaching your audience, and can you deliver that information such that, okay, I follow you, I follow you, I follow you, and everything gets done. Probably one of the hardest things is I'm going to have it all done by the 15th. Well, here it is, the 12th. Okay, where you at? Well, it's not going to get done. So it's part of an accountability thing too, and being able to keep somebody on schedule. And it happens. Life gets in the way. There's just the best laid plans don't always go the way you want.
That's so true. And I'm actually laughing, Reb, because I'm one of those people that you've had to keep on point. And you'll say, we have a certain date that we're publishing this book, and we don't have everything we need. All the illustrations aren't done. So I'd like to go a little bit back in time if we could. I think I've now published with your leadership, your mentorship, your coaching, 14 different books, and you've been there with me since the very beginning. And you have this process that really helps cut through a lot of the reasons, the obstacles, while people don't go ahead and publish a book or even write a book, or they started writing a book and they never finished. Can you tell us about this unique process that you use to help first-time authors?
Well, I think there's been a number of studies that say 88, 92% of the people in the United States at one point in time in their lives wanted to write a book. However, on the best day going, or best, about 2% actually write a book. And I think a lot of times people actually start writing a book and life gets in the way. They don't know how to leave this particular chapter to go to the next one. They get involved. And what I do is I'll say, Dr. Jacqueline, tell me about the first car you ever owned. Because I find that if you do an interview style, you know your life better than anyone else. That if I can set something up that you can talk about without even thinking, and we record it, it makes it so simple to write a book. So if you're talking about, well, tell me how you got involved in the broadcasting industry. Tell me about your first studio. Tell me about how you solicited speakers for your platform. Tell me about how you got advertising. There's a number of questions that can be answered by you very easily. So if I say, let's talk about the advertisers. Well, maybe at the beginning you didn't have many and you finally got one. Well, how did you get that one? How did you decide on pricing? So you put down in tell me about your advertisers as a chapter title, and then a bullet. Well, first one, success, pricing. You have bullets there that talk about those advertisers. And the same thing about equipment, the same thing about training, the same thing about whatever you're talking about to get that book written. So you have a dozen, maybe 15, maybe 18 questions that are the true value of the topic you want to talk about. Each of those questions are a chapter. Now, it may be an introduction, there may be an author about the author at the back, and maybe a dedication. Those don't count. We're talking about the meat of the book, the contents. So give me good 12 chapters or more. Now, if you have 25, it may be 2 books. But you're covering the details at a level that you know so well that I can ask you the question and you can just spit it out without even thinking because you know it so well. So if you do that and you record it, you can take an app, Google has one, record, and it just prints out as you're speaking. That particular voice now becomes a manuscript. The manuscript is now be printed out on a piece of paper and you can look at it. But if you're answering a question, Dr. Jacqueline, chances are the editing is going to be very, very little compared to, well, let me think about how I want to answer this thing, and you start typing along because your mind is wandering. But when your mind is answering a question, it's boom, there it is. There's the facts, ma'am.
Excellent points, Red. Thank you so much. Let's talk a little bit about the value of writing and publishing a book, because as you and I both know, if we wanted to be New York Times bestselling authors, it hasn't happened yet for me. I don't know, you're probably closer than I am, but it's not something that is typically probable for most people. And getting rich by writing and publishing a book, probably not going to happen either. So what is the real reason, the motivation behind an entrepreneur, a business person, someone writing and publishing a book? How can that be useful?
Well, excellent question, as always, Dr. Jacqueline. The typically when I start talking to a new author, well, why are you writing your book? Well, we covered the audience part. Well, why are you writing it? I want, and this varies, but one of the comments that comes, I want to make some money. I can sell this. Everybody wants to know this information. In reality, most authors never sell 100 books. And depending on how you go about having your book written and published and edited and covers and everything else, you can make some money, but more than likely you won't. I wrote a book a while back, my title for it is How to Write and Publish Your Book for Free. You actually can write and publish your book for absolutely no money other than your time. I'm talking about covers, I'm talking about everything. It can be done. It's not difficult. But where do people get hung up is that they have an expectation. I got some really good information. People ought to know about it. Well, the biggest problem is, how does that author, first time, get in touch with that audience that needs to know? But let's say that you, Dr. Jacqueline, are a public speaker, that you go around and you speak once or twice or 3 times a month at various networking groups, at church groups, at professional societies, at whatever. You being introduced as an author in a field that you wrote a book in enhances your credibility instantly. I mean, to have somebody come up and be introduced as an author is great. I mean, that's a lot of credibility. But to be introduced as an author speaking in the same field that you wrote a book in, I mean, that's a much higher level of credibility, and it's instant. The audience, boom. And it also gives you the chance to sell your books in the back of the room. I've had more than a couple occasions where I brought a couple, 3 boxes of books in the trunk of my car. I'm speaking to a group, and boom, I'm sold out. But I take the money from the books that they're there. I order them. I hand deliver them to those people who weren't there. Because if I wish I had the book right now. Well, I'll tell you what, you give me the money, I will order the book. I will deliver it to your office, to your home, wherever you want me to deliver it. Lunch, doesn't matter. I will hand deliver that book to you. So sometimes you sell out of your books, and sometimes you other things happen. But the mere fact that you can get your credibility, get some money for the books you're doing, and the recognition of doing that, because now on on social media, you have, here's a little snippet of me speaking. Here's a little snippet of me telling people that I'm going to be on this show this afternoon. You can be on podcasts, you can be on videos like here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. Lots of opportunities happen because you can go out there and do it. And many of them have free entry fees.
Yes, you are so right about that. And I also want to highlight the fact that you had the genius idea for me to reach out to local libraries, because we have a series of children's books, and find out if I could do book signing or even present. And I ended up getting hired, which I was going to do it for free. And I spoke to you and you're like, no, your time is valuable. And so I was able to present Mastering the Power of Elevated Listening. So in addition to making some money, in addition to that credibility, it can also be your calling card. It can be your business card, so to speak. And maybe there are opportunities where you don't sell it, but maybe you give it to someone as a way for them to remember you and for you to stand above and beyond someone else. What do you think about that?
I have a perfect example here in the Houston area. I'm going to call him Brian because that's his name. He has a book that he wrote pre-COVID. It's basically a little square book about the size of a CD cover. And in it, I think it's 62 pages. And he basically gives it away to his clients. He writes on SEO, doesn't matter, SEO. And he gives it away to his clients who are Shell and Conoco and Halliburton and whoever. And he's averaged, I think, every year for the last 6 or 7 years, all the way through COVID and a couple, 3 or 4 years before that, he's averaged best-selling author every year. But the more important thing is he makes a consistent low to mid 6-figure salary every year. And all he does is use his book as a giveaway, as a calling card, as a business card, as you just said. So there are lots of things you can do with the book. Let's say you have a 30-page book. Well, that's not a whole lot, but you can attach it to an email and use it as a what they call a lead generator. When you're having, let's say you have a training session and you want to have that, here's my 1995 book, ebook, and that's going to be given away as part of the program that I'm offering. So you can use it as a freebie and offer the value of the book that they would have paid for it had they bought it themselves. So it's a very, I think, exceptionally good way of doing things. And sometimes you can say, let's say you walk into a networking event and you want to give out your elevated listing book as a door prize. So tell me a little bit about your book. Now you have a chance to 30 seconds elevator speech about your book so that people know what they're getting. So if you're at an event and you can use your book as a gift, as a giveaway, as a business card, why not?
Another wonderful way to distinguish ourselves from others and also to provide education. That's what we do here. And I think as authors, that's part of our goal and mission as well. I'd like to segue over to your role as a global broadcaster. So when we first started together, which seems like it was decades ago, but I guess it was 4 years ago, I don't even know. What was your level of expertise and experience in being a television presenter?
Zero. Well, I can't say exactly zero because Toastmasters was changing their way of doing business. They wanted a new outline's not the right word, but they're shifting from the old books that they used and the programs to a brand new program that they figured would be able to give them a wider audience. And they use Zoom as the primary way to do that. Now, not exactly live TV, but it was a medium by which I'm now on a video and presenting information. I've been on many videos over in Europe with the military where I'm in a secure facility and I'm talking to somebody in England or some other country. And it's similar, but it's not quite the same thing as the question you asked. When you're in a live video audience, that's a different animal. And I will give you all the credit in the world because you are very good about saying, hey, Red, next time think about this, or you might try it this way. But there are things that we do, we don't think about, we don't even know because we've never done them. And we need that feedback from a newbie perspective. How can I improve? And you mentioned one of the things earlier, show up. I am very vocal. Sometimes I'm at a meeting and it's 4 minutes after 10, it's a 10 o'clock meeting. I'll start saying, what time does the 10 o'clock meeting start? Out loud, because it's one of those things, if you're holding people accountable to show up in a certain place, they ought to be there. But from a global TV perspective live, you have to be there. You have an audience. There's a commitment. There's too many things going on. You're just one cog in the wheel. And so you have to make that commitment that no matter what, you're going to be there. Now, there are going to be things that COVID, for instance, I think one of our guests here recently had that, and that happened at the last minute. Things happen. We realize that. And you work around it. There's a lot of ways there. But so being able to be credible, being able to follow a train of thought, you do an exceptionally good job interviewing people. And so I take notes. Well, how did you go from that topic to this one? And so sometimes I can see the process by which you're going. So if I look at it, how can I get that person that I'm talking to, they have value. How can I find that value and how can they share it with the audience? So that's what I'm trying to do, is learn the mechanics, but at the same time, develop some skills and hone some of the tools I have from speaking, from analyzing, from researching, assessing, to say, let's make this program just a little bit better.
And to me, it sounds like a foundation of a house. You keep building on it, and then the house has, is strong and steady. And so you have so many skills and talents that you can actually incorporate into the work that you're doing. So I'd like you to share a little bit with our audience about the differences in your experience of being a television show host versus an expert presenter versus being a panelist. You were a panelist on The Men's Show, and you're also an expert presenter on Talking Heads, and you also host The Wise Ones. We have no script. In fact, I wasn't even supposed to be here today. You were supposed to be interviewing someone else, and we had to pivot. So you don't know what I'm asking you, and I don't know what I'm going to ask you because I'm just following the flow of the conversation. So you're able to do the same thing. But what is the different skill sets between when you're doing this show versus talking heads or being a panelist on another show?
Now, let's take the panelists first. I was a panelist recently at a church event that they asked me to speak on health and wellness. And as a panelist, you're an expert in a particular area that they want. So there may be a general question to say, Red, what do you think? Or they may say, Red, let's take that question and delve into a different way. As a panelist, you're an expert in a certain area, and that's what you're asked to comment on. So the feedback you're giving to your audience is based on your perspective of the topic that's there. So if I'm speaking on longevity, that's an area that I've written books on. I can hold my books up and say, hey, this is what I've done. So you establish your credibility so that people know that, okay, he's actually done something beyond just speak. So from a panelist perspective, and you have to realize there's a lot of people, there may be 4, 5, 6 people on a panel. You can't hog all the time. So I look at trying to do my segment down into 1 minute, 90 seconds, whatever it may happen to be, so that everybody gets a chance to do it. Now, if you're looking at a show called The Wise Ones, that's one where I may or may not know the person coming in. We've had situations where, okay, I'm all prepared for this person. Boom, I got my notes. I've looked at their website. I've looked at their social media. I have questions that I want to know the answers to that I think the world wants to know. There's value there. How do I get them to answer that question? How do they get to where they are? So there's a lot of questions that can be asked, but they should all be focused on making that person the star of the show because they're there as a guest and they're the star. And that's what you're trying to do. So that skill set is going to be a little different than just being an expert on a panel. Now you have to kind of take a back seat and feed value-laden questions to the guest to make that guest shine. But also there's a way of being able sometimes to go on and on and on and on. And we explain in the backstage that, you know, if you're up there and all of a sudden you see 2 screens, chances are you're talking a little bit too long. We need to get more stuff done. So we explain to the guest that we have a backup system by which that if you see 2 people up there, me and you, let's move on to the next question. Because some people can just talk and talk and talk. And so when you get involved in that after about 10 minutes, now you can start shifting your questions around where they're not necessarily yes or no, but you give them an open audience to talk for the next 10 minutes. And that's super critical because there's a timeline and you're trying to really and truly get to what that person, that guest, has to offer to our audience. And this is a worldwide audience. And you have to be able, I'm going to say must. You must be able to manage the time left with the topics that you want to cover in a timely manner so that, okay, when I finish the show, that was pretty good. I think we got that across. And if you didn't, then you invite the guest back again, or you have the guest appear on another show. And so from a Wise One's perspective as an interviewer, that's a different skill set. Now, if I'm just being an academic and I'm telling you about age-related diseases and how Alzheimer's progresses through the body, I'm doing a presentation as if I were in front of a classroom, except that my classroom now is the camera, and I have to be organized. Now, in my particular case, I use a lot of interesting words, long words people don't hear. If I said possible tidal serine, most people have never heard of it. But if I have it in a slide where people can pause and write it down, look at what I have. So I've decided to go with slides on a lot of my presentations because the topics are so complex that sometimes people need to see the word, hear the word, and be able to pause and write it down. And I think that's of value because now they can go back and look at what was there, and if they want to pull something out or they want to make a question for their doctor, I say, yeah, talk to your doctor about this because these are things that most people don't do. So 3 different deals. You're a resident expert in a particular area as a guest with others. You're interviewing a guest on a show to get their value. And at the end, you're sharing your value with others, a more professorial perspective than the other ones.
That was so effective the way you shared that. And the fact that you are able to pivot and go from being a TV show host to an expert presenter to a panelist, that's not something everyone can do. But I want to go back to what I shared in the very beginning, which is you have this incredible sense of loyalty and dedication and focus that regardless of what's going on, we don't know what's happening with you in your real life outside of this TV show. I know some of the things going on, but the audience doesn't know because you turn a switch and you show up and here you are. And you recall last year on a Thursday, one Thursday, I was in the emergency room with my mother and had to produce the show. And the next Thursday, I was actually at the long-term center where the doctor just said my mom she had cancer. And so I still had to produce the show. And people didn't know. You knew, but people didn't know. And I don't know what it is that you and I and others are so committed to making sure that we show up at the highest level, regardless of what's going on. How would you describe your ability to flip that switch and put everything behind you for the time that you're on air?
Actually, I think I'm an introvert, very introverted. I do not like being out in crowds. I don't like dealing with people. If I had my ideal, I'd sit in a chair, read a book. I'm not a very socially active person. However, if I'm networking, I put on my networking hat and I go out and I'm the biggest extrovert you've ever seen because that's money in hand. I am now a business person. I have to act like a business person. I have to look like a business person and present myself such. If I'm looking at, what I did as a student versus what I did as a teacher, you have to wear different hats. In the military, I wear a hat as a team member or a team leader. So long as I can put on a hat and now magically transform myself, I am now this. All you have to do is get it into your subconscious brain that what am I trying to accomplish? I don't like to talk about myself, but if I'm wearing my broadcaster's hat or my whatever hat that I have to, it's not the same. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about myself, but from a different perspective. And so I think that's critical, is recognizing what is expected, and expectations are really what controls our entire lives through our subconscious mind. But being able to, okay, I need to wear this hat, and then I take it off, and so I get done with a show, boom, I'm done, that hat's off, I'm gone. Recharge my phone, do whatever I need to do, and then just life goes on. But I also have that non-hat. I'm looking at the time, I got to be on in an hour. I got to start getting the studio set up. I got to make sure I have my questions ready. I got to make sure that everything is done and I'm ready to roll. On today's first show, all of a sudden I decided to change a camera and it didn't work. Okay, I'm down to about 8 minutes before the show and I'm still jerking around here trying to figure out what's going on. And so I go back to the original configuration, everything's fine. But there are things that you have to do, and it depends on what hat you're wearing. And if you can put a hat on and be that person, that is, I think, the skill you're looking for. To say, enjoy life when you're not wearing that hat, but when you're wearing that hat, you better be very good about wearing that hat, because that's the one that people see. And that's the one, because if I'm wearing a hat and I'm not acting like the person that I'm presenting, people see it immediately. So I think that's for me, being able to figure out what hat to wear, what's expected, and deliver.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Red. I have comments. We do have a comment from someone, Angela Cahill. All the world is a stage and we are merely players. Yes, thank you. Thank you for watching over on YouTube. Red, in light of what you just shared, when you're not feeling 100%, and again, I know those times because we've discussed them, what are some tricks or some skills or something that you may say to yourself, maybe right before the show is starting or even during the show? I know there have been times like today we had inspectors in the house. The house is, as we're going through a sale and the clock is ringing because I'm not supposed to be doing this show, but I mentally tuned myself into being here today. So things come up that we can't control. What is it that you do when you're not feeling your best, or maybe there's noise in the background, that you just stay on point and don't get swept away into the distractions?
As you know, I wrote a book on the subconscious mind, Our subconscious mind controls 95%, maybe more, of everything we do. But when you have a want or a need, that goes to the conscious brain, which has no control over what we want and need. But if I say I intend to do something, I expect to do something, expectations are really and truly what determines our level of effectiveness. People who have low expectations that are met all the time are generally happier than people who have high expectations that aren't met. So depending on how you set your expectations, your level of happiness can flood your brain, which floods your body. Now, I'm going to say a little over 10 years ago, if somebody asked me, Red, how are you doing? And I would say, somewhat reasonable. That was my standard reply. And I started associating with trying to improve myself, self-improvement. And my mentor at the time, his standard phrase was excellent as always. And after about a year, I said, maybe I ought to try that. And it took me about 30 days where somebody said, hey, Red, how you doing? I said, excellent as always. And it just came out, it just blurted. But the mere fact that I said it, I'm thinking it, and I've had days, and there are not many of them per year, that I'm not 100%. I will, and a lot of them here just the last couple, 3 months. And I answer a question, excellent as always. And all of a sudden, I can feel from my head down through my shoulders, my chest, I can feel something happening, something changing. The first time that happened, whoa, what's going on? I just kind of noted. Another time it happened, okay, what happened last time? Maybe there's something to that. So if you're not feeling well, maybe you lower your expectations because now you can exceed them. But more importantly, talk to your subconscious mind. I expect this is going to be fun. I expect the show is going to be great. When I'm doing presentations as a speaker, usually the last 10 minutes before I get up on stage, I do a visualization of the audience clapping, standing up, telling me how good a job I did. In other words, I'm just flooding my brain with congratulatory reply saying, okay, this is my expectation. And I've never been, I'm going up there, I'm already prepped, my body's there, I know what I'm going to talk about, I've done it many times. And you just deliver something and the expectation is always met. So the visualization, the expectation, talking to yourself, sometimes excellent as always. I say, well, Red, today I'm excellent as always. Or red.olaughlin, because you're talking in a slightly different perspective to your brain. But most of the time, excellent as always is a phrase that I use. And people say, Red, how are you doing today? And just about the time we get half of the word excellent out, oh, I already know that. And but it's one of those things that's so easy. It's a good habit to have. And it will and truly make your day a little bit better, that if you have that as one of the things you say.
I'm smiling because I remember you and I having a conversation about excellent as always. And as you were saying it, I would just feel the lightness. And I started saying it myself, because if you answer with, I'm okay. First of all, nobody wants to hear that, right? People want to hear something positive because everyone has enough problems as it is. So I really appreciate that you have that attitude. I also think this is important. I know for myself with ulcerative colitis, I've struggled for 30 plus years. There are many times it could be 6 months in a row when I'm really sick. And I say to myself, I have a greater calling. My calling is to provide education, and in the hopes that that education will help someone. So I have to get out of woe is me and get into let me help someone. Let me provide information that hopefully will change someone's viewpoint. We also have another comment from Angela. Thank you. I agree. Attitude sets the scene. Fantastic. We'd love for you to subscribe to our channels as well, Angela. That would be fantastic. Red, we are at the end of our show. And as you know, your Talking Heads episode is coming up next. I want to thank you for the opportunity that you've given me to interview you today. And we'll look forward to you being the one who's interviewing your guests next week. What would you like to leave our audience with in terms of the best way for people to reach you and the ideal client for you to work with?
My phone number is 281-687-1188. It's there on the banner below, 281-687-1188. Call me. red.olaughlin@gmail.com I have several emails, but that's the one I check on hourly basis or so. So it's red, R-E-D, red.olaughlin, spelled OLAUGHLIN, @gmail.com. So email me, call me on the phone. If you're a new author and you want to talk about writing a book, call me. If you have a book that's in the process and you want to get it published, you have questions, call me. So that's the easiest way. Ideal clients are generally anybody in the book or writing or authoring field that knows of somebody that wants to write a book. In fact, one of the networking events that I've spoke at for years around here, it's kind of shut down. I got a text last night, actually no, it's an instant message from somebody saying, hey, I hope you remember me. I used to be this. Says, I ran into somebody yesterday who wants to write a book. Can I give them your name? And I get that maybe once a month, once every other month, where somebody recommends me to someone else or they recommend a person to me. And so that's who I'm looking for, somebody who's interested in authoring a book or getting it published. So whatever I can do to help them in that perspective, or just from a academic perspective, if they need a speaker at an event, most of the stuff I speak on is health and wellness. I specialize in longevity and age-related disease.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Red. It's always a joy to have the opportunity to be here with you today. And thank you also, Angela, for subscribing. We do appreciate you. Red, we will see you in a few minutes for your next show.
I look forward to it.
Bye for now. Thank you. All right, everyone, as we close out the wise ones, I do have a few announcements. I want to start with the fact that we have 2 YouTube channels. One was a backup channel, but we have now our search engine optimization team working on that as well. So USA Global TV and Radio, which I do have some information. This is as of the 27th. So on our USA Global TV and Radio YouTube channel, we had 909,157 thousand views so far for 2024. Last year, we had a total of 1 million and some change. And so we were way ahead of where we were last year. We also have a second YouTube channel, and these numbers are woefully old. So I apologize. I don't have a new graphic for this yet, but we have Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, which is our other YouTube channel. That's my name. And we have completely different audiences on both channels, which is so fascinating. On Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, we typically have the demographics of more females, a high percentage of females versus males. And most of our viewers are from the US, the UK. Whereas on our other channel, we have, as of yesterday, 47,050 views. Our subscribers are mostly male, and they're from outside the US, which I find fascinating. So thank you for subscribing to both channels. We really do appreciate you. All right, I just want to share some of the new shows that we have in case you're not aware. We started last night with intentional productivity tips, transition from stress and dread to productivity and accomplishment with Megan Sandwick. Every show that I'm going to share with you, the show graphic, we have a playlist on our 2 YouTube channels. Some of our shows also stream on Roku Worldwide, Amazon Fire, E360 TV, and Zizzle TV. E360 and Zizzle are distributors of content, so those programs go on to hundreds of different stations and channels. And each show host, like Red, has the opportunity to decide if they want their show to go onto these various platforms. So another one of our new shows is Food and Femininity with Maggie, the Substitute Teacher. Maggie actually broadcasts here every single day, 7 days a week. She does a live broadcast, a live video, and she also does what's called shorts, where the video is actually a minute or less. We also have Dear James, Weekly Wisdom and Insights. This is a phenomenal show. Dear James is a very well-renowned, acclaimed broadcaster, radio show host, and he provides conversations that he has with spirit, that spirit guided transformation. So check him out. He's on twice a week as well. And I'm not going to go through all the shows, but A Woman's Prerogative. This show is on Mondays, And we have women from various parts of the world. And sometimes we talk about very serious topics, and other times we talk about topics that are more fun. So we have panelists from New Zealand, Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. And we also have the Holistic Alternative, Exploring Natural Wellness Solutions with founder Julie Ann Mejia, which is on once a month at this point in time, actually twice next month. I mentioned to you about Talking Heads. These are expert presenters on Talking Heads, and each one of them has a certain gift and niche for different topics. Red has spoken on so many different topics. He's been doing Talking Heads, I think, for 3 years, as has Mariska, and I think Caroline as well. They're truly talented individuals. Okay, we also have Angela Lau, the Dream Maker. Angela's in Macau, and she brings on various people who talk about how their dreams came true. She's also an award-winning animator, and we're going to be featuring some of her animations as well. She submitted a few of them for Oscars, and she's just incredibly gifted. Her show was on yesterday, and it was kind of interesting because it was 10 o'clock in the morning here, New York time, and it was 10 p.m. in Macau time in China. So that's how global we are. Okay, we also have this show, which is The Power of Etiquette and Manners with Mr. Philip Sykes. Philip and the British School of Excellence are one of our sponsors. Philip is a very dear friend. He has worked with the royal family. He's worked with A-list celebrities here in the States. And the British School of Excellence helps teach people the importance of etiquette and manners. It's not for posh people. It's literally for everyone. And as we close out, just two more. One, this one is near and dear to me, Dementia Home Care, Balancing Care with Peace of Mind. This is hosted by Tracy Cram-Perkins, and she's in the state of Washington in the U.S. And Tracy's book, Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After, is truly a Bible when it comes to understanding what it takes to be a caregiver. I took care of my mother for 3.5 years. She passed away last year, actually, just a few days ago, year anniversary. And Tracy's book helped me so much, because when someone has dementia or Alzheimer's, if you don't have experience, you don't know what to do. I found myself very angry, and I found myself very sad and very confused. But at the same time, I was able to start this platform. And if it weren't for the fact I was taking care of my mom, I probably would be in a corporate job somewhere. So Tracy really helped me. She was like a sister, and the knowledge in her book it's literally priceless. So I think we'll close out with that. I think that's a great place to stop for today. So please do stay tuned as we come back momentarily. Oh, one more I wanted to show. Sorry. Ashley Owens, How to Not Suck at Networking, Tactical Tips and Practical Takeaways with Ashley Owens. I want to give this quick shout out to Ashley, who is in Texas. And the shout out is that Ashley had her own television show at an in-person studio in New Jersey. And I was asked to be a guest on her show, Connect to Success. And so I went to the studio, and she asked me about my career as life coaching. And I couldn't stop smiling. My face was like this. It was like my smile was going to crack. So I went and spoke to the owner, and I said, I'd really like to have my own show. And I started my own show, Rapping with Dr. Jacqueline. And I had a radio show at the same time with the same name, The Drive at 5, Rapping with Dr. Jacqueline. So Ashley, fast forward, she became my business coach, and now she has her own show on our platform. So do tune in for that as well. I don't know the times. There's so many shows. We've got like 55 shows now. So thank you again for being here. And Angela, thank you for being with us. Yes, Dementia Home Care. It's a fabulous show. And the book, I think Tracy told me she sold over 17,000 copies in conjunction with being on our show and all of the book signings that she's doing. So it really is a resource, a toolkit for people. So thanks again. I've got to run and produce the next show for Red. Thank you for being here. We really do appreciate you. We're going to close out with Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence, and then we will close for today for this program. Bye for now. Thank you for being with us. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence. Building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the Secrets of Visual Impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you. 5 little known secrets for dementia caregivers with Tracy Cram-Perkins.
Hi there, I am Tracy Cram-Perkins, the host of the Dementia Home Care Show here on USA Global TV and Radio. I am also the author of the book of the same name. And you'll see this QR code. This is for an extended version of the same talk. So if you want to see the full hour-long version, feel free to scan the code and go to that website. Stick with me. We'll talk about 5 little known secrets to make it a little easier to do dementia caregiving. What you're seeing on the left-hand side is a healthy aged brain, age 55 and above. The one you're seeing on the right is an Alzheimer's disease brain. It is in moderate disease. It is shrinking. It has holes in it. The memories that were in those holes no longer exist. When you're learning something, let's say in kindergarten, you learn how to tie your shoelace. Well, then by the time you're in 2nd grade, your brain remembers that information from tying the shoelace and applies it so you can learn more quickly how to tie more complex knots. So the brain is hardwired to do this for us, so it helps us learn faster so it doesn't take us long to acquire knowledge. The brain is looking for the information and they pick the closest to wherever that hole is. Let's look at some tips that we can use to help do that.
These are 5 simple tools you can use as a dementia caregiver to help your loved one. The whiteboard is a useful tool in recording the day's activities and the answers to repetitive questions. The calendar clock is a very useful tool to orient your loved one on the day, the date, and the time, and remind them of upcoming appointments. The communication cards are a great tool to bridge the gap when they can no longer tell you what's wrong. And then there's the pill minder for when your loved one is still able to take pills but needs prompting. The final tool I want to share with you is the memory book. It tells your loved one's story. It's a great tool for distraction, redirection, also as a conversation starter, and telling you where they are in their story so you know how to answer their questions.
Music is probably the most powerful tool in your toolbox after laughter. Music is a way to maintain connection. It sticks with your brain longer than any other thing, including reading. When you're having an issue with somebody, you can play their favorite music if you move them to another room, something that makes them happy, or you can start singing songs together from their childhood. These are some of my favorite books for caregivers. My show airs on the 3rd Tuesday of every month, and you can view past episodes on YouTube. Thank you, everyone.
This program has been brought to you in part by Tracy Cram Perkins. Connect with her and order her book at tracycramperkins.com. For more information about Alzheimer's disease, support resources, and how you can help, contact the Alzheimer's Association at 1-800-272-3900 or visit their website at www.alz.org. They offer 24/7 helpline support and a wealth of information to assist you and your loved ones.
Hello, I'm children's author Diane Floyd Bain, and I am co-host for several of the USA Global TV and radio shows. I joined because of the purpose of the USA Global TV and radio. They provide content for the viewers and listeners, an opportunity for people around the world to have their own show or even be a guest on an existing show. We truly believe in helping others get their positive message out to the world. We also have the opportunity for the listeners. You can watch on several platforms, and on YouTube, you can ask questions and even give a comment. We absolutely love it. I love being part of the USA Global TV and radio because I love positive messages. And who doesn't? And we need more of that in the world. We are a family, and we hope you will join us and become part of the family too.